Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
For centuries, ancient cultures knew the secrets to longevity, vitality, and healing. Now, modern science is catching up. Ageless Blueprint is a podcast that will reveal the modern secrets of better health and a better life. Join Dr. Eldred Taylor here today and every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. As together we discover the secrets to better health through science and spirituality. A Better Life with Ageless Blueprint starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
Hello, this is Wednesday morning, and that means it's 9 a.m., so it means it's time for the Ageless Blueprint. And I am Dr. Taylor, the hormone doctor and the spiritual MD. And today is a little bit unusual. I started, is Lolita here? Oh, Lolita, thank you. I hadn't heard from you, so she's here. So, all right, great. Lolita, you can come on. I hadn't heard from you. I knew you were a professional. I had every confidence in the world that you were going to be here. I just hadn't heard from you. I had a backup, so I am so glad that you are here because what I've started doing is that at first I was just doing this by myself, but what I wanted to do is to start having guests on who can also add to our broadcast and help our listeners, and also hopefully I can do something to help her audience. So, Lolita, let me introduce you, and then we can start a conversation. Okay, so Miss Guarin, she is a stress management coach whose personal journey began as an immigrant who overworked herself into a health crisis. Now, she ended up in the ER with severe unstoppable bleeding when she was in her 30s, which she's probably only about 31 right now. But anyway, which doctors attributed to stress, but she refused to just take a pill and approach and began exploring stress management through breath work, yoga, and boundaries. So Lolita, she's a best-selling author. I'm so happy you're here. Can you just tell us something about yourself? Tell us about your journey, and we'll talk about all of the things you have to offer, and we'll see how we can complement each other. So the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. Such an honor to be here this morning. And when I think about my journey to this point, it doesn't really even look like it's such an impressive journey. And yes, I'm an immigrant. I came from Lithuania. I came to US, and I worked very hard because I knew if I really want to achieve the dream, that's what we've been told, that we need to work hard and not take care of ourselves. And hammer, and then we'll be happy. But I think you don't have to change the country to have an inspirational story. But there are so many, especially women, that are going through the same thing that I was going through, because we have to take care of our families, the people we love, the businesses, our goals, and not we're continuously overdoing it for somebody else. But I think my journey is no special. I am no special compared to any other woman that is listening in right now and thinking, you know what, I didn't change the countries, but I'm working overtime and I need to take care of everyone else. So I think I just took time to really shine a light onto the moments in my life that actually changed the way I see life and how I start living from that moment on.
Yeah, and I talk about the stress of high-performing women. But I think almost all women are high performing, because they're caretakers. Men are a little selfish. We care about ourselves, our needs, our wants. But women they look at the whole picture. And sometimes that's good. And then sometimes they can be detrimental. What do you think about that?
There was the way I think it shows how women and men look at life. I remember there was a story. It says the difference between Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts are that the Boy Scouts making a plan how they're going to get to that hill, and the Girl Scouts making a plan what they're going to eat when they get there.
And then, the other thing I would say is that, women, everything kind of meshes. I see men, when they go to work, they think about work. They don't think about home. When they get home, they think about home. Women, they think about home when they're at work, and work when they're at home, and it's just all meshes up. And so it all kind of, gets jumbled in together. I think men are better at compartmentalization.
And they should, because I believe women, the masculine energy needs to be a supportive and protective of the feminine energy. And if we will have, imagine a hunting where the man needs to kill the beast and bring it home to feed the family, and he's going to look at this deer and start crying because it looks so pretty and doesn't want to kill it, I don't think we will, as a species, will have survived. So I think it's just nature's way of saying, we're just going to make very, very narrow thinking, and you have a focus, and then you're going to go for it. And I think we just blend in so perfectly, because it's just true yin and yang, because we're there for each other and we should support each other.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is that ageless blueprint? There is an ageless blueprint, like you're saying. There's feminine energy and masculine energy, and those energies are different, but they complement each other. And I think one of the problems is we try to make the other person have that same energy. I say men, we want women to act like men, and women want men to act like women. But they can't. We got to understand that there's a different physiology and there's different energies. And I'm from this medical background. I'm so glad you're introducing energies. And so, because I believe in those too. Now, I didn't. That's not what we teach in medical school, but life has taught me about these different energies. So talk a little bit more about that, because it sounds better coming from you than from me, but I'll just compliment what you're saying.
I heard someone explain very well what is the balance between the feminine and between the feminine and masculine energy. It's like an ocean. The feminine energy is like a water. It can change shape, but the masculine energy is like the bottom of the ocean. So both of those parts create a beautiful ecosystem. That's what the life is, right? But if you will take away the water from the ocean, what it becomes? A desert. And when we look at the masculine energy, it loses the purpose. So it needs to have a purpose in order to live and thrive. And I see a lot of research done. The men who retire, they just start getting sick and die out faster than those that keep on working, because they have the purpose. And now if we look at the feminine energy, is the water. That means if you will take the bottom off, right, there is no more of the bottom of the ocean. The water will change shape. So it can evaporate, can become snow, but also at the same time, even if there is a bottom, it can be a very calm sea, but it also can be a hurricane. So the woman, every day you don't know what you're going to get, right? Because there is so much going on. And when you look at the water is all the source of the life and the energy, the creative energy. And we can see it here, what went wrong in our society these days, because when you look at the research, the number one killer of women is not cancer. Everybody thinks it's cancer. It's not. It's a heart disease. And the heart disease comes why? Because of inflammation. Inflammation really caused by stress. And if we look at let's say, compare families 150 years ago to now, what happened is the women rights and women want to say, we are the same like men. You need to treat us with respect. And I totally agree. We need to be all treated equally. But what happened, I believe, in order for the women to show their worth, they not became women. They became men. And in our world, when we look at this now, like a professional dressed woman, where she looks like a man. She's wearing pants. She's going this rah, and that's what really slowly also killing and impacting the hormones and everything else for women, because when you look at the men need stress um, to they need testosterone to calm their stress, to regulate their stress. That's why
Mhm.
men thrive in the project focused environment. And I love how you said that men just have, they go to work and they're just so preoccupied with this. That's how the nature intended. But men thrive in that kind of environment where they have to constantly solve problems, they have to move forward, there is a competition. This is a good thing for men. And so when I have a coaching clients that come to me and they say, oh, I don't know what to do, my doctor said I need to handle the stress. For the men, I say just go hunting, go video plays, go man, go to your man cave, do your
Yeah.
testosterone things. But for the women, is the opposite: is that we need to feel mellow and included, and have a physical touch, and so it's we should not have testosterone. And so now women, when women feminine energy goes into such a testosterone driven environment, we get sick. And if we do not manage that balance out, and bring oxytocin and the bonding chemicals and all that, then we get sick. And then also, what also a huge thing that changed over years, and let's say 50 or even 100 years ago, we'd had multiple generations living in the same household. You know what they say, it takes a village to grow a child. That means there were so many women around that moment that there will be no child that will be not attended because somebody will see
Mhm.
him crying. He was helping to regulate the child's health, mental health as well.
Mhm.
And the women can share chores, they can communicate with other women. It's the community. Women need the community.
Mhm.
And now we got to the point when we have only one family in the household. And this is what start happening of the women expect that the man will support them in the way only the women can. And the men, when the women stop complaining about how they tired after work, because I already worked all day and now I have to deal with you. And then it's a huge relationship problem.
Exactly. So you know what you are. So let me tell you, I agree with everything you said, and I think what we talked about before. What I try to provide is the physical, objective evidence. I believe 100. This is what I say all the time. I wrote a book called the. Me and my wife wrote a book called The Stress Connection. The stress is the connection to everything. Stress is why you had that initial bleeding episode when you were 30. What did stress do? It said, hey, look, this is not a safe environment. We don't need to ovulate and have a baby. So it stopped ovulation. When you stopped ovulation, you stopped making a hormone called progesterone. That progesterone calms down the uterus so that you don't have heavy bleeding. It calms down the brain so you don't have emotional outbursts. So, what I say is that the physiology also affects the psychology or the personality or whatever. So, what I try to show these high performing women or any woman is show, hey, look, this is what your cortisol circadian rhythm looks like. It's totally out of order. It's low in the morning, it's high at night. That's why you're tired during the day and you can't sleep at night. I always say it's hard to manage something that you cannot measure. So I try to measure hormones through saliva testing and cortisol. And then the other thing is called heart rate variability is another way to see that balance of sympathetic and parasympathetic. So that's where I come from. I say, hey, I try to fix the hardware so it makes you fixing the software easier because I believe that if your cortisol rhythm is out of balance, and if your estrogen progesterone is out of balance, it's very hard to do that kind of work. And that kind of work usually happens in the 40s and 50s when women are in perimenopause and menopause, when they're going through this stressful transition in their physiology and in their environment. Like you're saying, you got kids that are growing up, you got parents that are coming to live with you because they're sick. And so all of this is that stress component that I believe is and when you're talking about heart disease and inflammation, that comes from stress. So everything, so that's why your stress management is so important. And I think we talked before is that a lot of times the most difficult patients are those patients dealing with stress during that transition of physiologic stress. So what do you think about that?
I agree all that you said. And
Mhm,
when I started my own stress management journey, I did a
mhm,
lot of what they call now stress management bandages. Uh,
Mhm.
Meditation, yoga, diaries, and all of this. Um, but only when I started digging deeper into why I'm so stressed out, I didn't even expect that my childhood experience, my all my childhood traumas that I learned how to live in the patterns, how to manage stress and how to live in general were made in my childhood. I
Mhm.
had no idea that that is impacting my adult life. And
Mhm.
I grew up with a father who used to be an alcoholic, and he's okay now for 20 years. But when I was growing up, I did not have a stable environment. I
Mhm.
So basically my default line was to be anxious and stressed out and hyper vigilant all the time. And
Mhm.
so when I changed countries and I become an adult, and I added more stress into my body, and then you just couldn't take it anymore. And
Mhm.
we now, when we look at stress and I start coaching someone who comes to me for help, I always ask them, how are your parents managing stress? Where did you learn how to manage stress? And we will continue doing the same thing over and over that we've been taught, knowing, thinking that that's the way it is, because we don't know anything other.
Mhm.
And so somebody who I'm sure we can find you even um, similarities with the clients that we work or you work, is that it could be the same person age, could be even looks like the same diet and the way they live, and it looks like they're successful and everything is great from the outside. But those who came from the environment that they are very hard on themselves, and when you look at the high achievers, that means they think they're not good enough. That's why they keep on need to push
Mhm.
themselves to the point of exhaustion. And that's what I think the mental part that we also need to address when we manage any stress in the body.
Yeah. And so now here's what I will this is what I found as the missing link, being an OBGYN, is that I really didn't have a good way to measure hormones and measure stress. Okay. I just didn't. We gave birth control pills, we give antidepressants. That's still what's happening now. Until I discovered saliva testing 25 years ago. We wrote the book called Are Your Hormones Making You Sick? And now I can actually see that the person's progesterone is low. And if you had a saliva test back when you were in the 30s, they would have seen, oh, wow, she's bleeding because her progesterone is low. And progesterone is what slows down the growth of estrogen. But you can't see that in blood. And we can talk about that because blood is water soluble and hormones are fat soluble. So if you look in the saliva, you can see those imbalances. You can see that the cortisol curve is disrupted. And a lot of times, and I've found this, if I show a patient, this is what's going on in your physiology, is not a sign of weakness, it's not a sign of anything like that. If we fix this, and then you go back and start doing your coaching, because I've had interviews with other people, they say it helps to make the coaching stick because they're not going through all of these physiological, ups and downs now. And here's the other thing: when your cortisol is low, that means you have low energy. And it takes energy to do these practices. It takes energy to calm your brain down. And so when you don't have that energy and you have the turbulence of unbalanced hormones, it can cause it can make it look like where your information isn't sticking or isn't working, but it's really is that the patient just can't absorb it because she's in such a dysregulated state. What do you think about that? That's how I look at it. I'm all for the coaching and stuff because even for me, when I was, and just one other thing, you were talking about how men, when they don't have a purpose, they just fade away, and that's what happened to me at 64. I'm like, what am I going to do? Am I going to fade away and die, or am I going to find a new purpose? And that's what this is. I've never done this before until a year and a half ago because, hey, I guess I recognize masculine energy and I needed to do this. So anyway, so where we started from is, do you think that a little bit of objective evidence, because also you can redo those tests and say, hey, look how far you've come. Your cortisol curve is better. Now your hormones are in balance. Are you sleeping better? How are things? So I always try to have guests on where what I could do could enhance your clients, and whatever you do could also be the second layer of my clients. So that's how I look at this, and I think that's how we talked about it when we talked about doing this. So let's just talk about how those two things, objective evidence and subjective evidence, could actually enhance a person's outcome. All right.
I agree that the more measuring we can do, the more than we can understand what is really going on. But I think, like everything else in life, it is very holistic. That has to do with mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
So you can measure the body and what is happening. But where I come in, that's where can I support someone who is in that mental state? Where is your mind?
Yes.
And you definitely, like, I love how you said that. I can coach somebody as much as want to to the point of the no return. But if the body says I cannot do it, I cannot support this,
Right.
it's like a running like a car with only one wheel. So let's say if the mind and body and soul is a tricycle, you
Right.
definitely have one more wheel. And I think
Mhm.
what comes to medicine, so many times they treat only the body but don't take care of the mind. And then when you
Mhm.
look at the therapy and coaching and things like that, then they really looking at the mind but not really paying attention to the body.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think we need to start looking at the things very holistically, that has to do with all of those things, specifically, especially when we look at the mind state. And when I got sick, I was not depressed. I was very driven. I was goal oriented. And when I told my friends, I'm like, well, this is what happened. Many opinions I got, it was, you just take a pill. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna just take a pill and I'm like, I'm not depressed. I mean, what pills do you want to give me apart from, what the doctors wanted to give me some other pills for the body, when they realize it has to do a lot with my mind and what do
Mhm.
I think, what
Yeah.
is my energy goes, what are my patterns, and how I push myself. And basically, I was bullying myself into success. That's what I
Yeah.
teach my clients. Stop bullying yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, the thing is, I mean, even with this, I want this to be successful. So I'm like bullying. I'm like, is she going to show up? I was like, you know what I said? I said, if she doesn't show up, I'm not going to worry about it. I'll have a little backup. I'll talk about what I want to talk about. So that's kind of me. I've been, it's learning that, hey, look, you can't make reality do it. You have to just live through it. It's almost it's popular now, that letting go kind of thing, is that you can't force an outcome. You just got to keep doing what you're doing. So talk about that, how you coach your clients, because I call myself the hormone doctor and the spiritual MD. And then what I say is that, yeah, you got to get your hormones right, then you get your mind right, and only then can your mind be quiet enough to connect with your spirit. And that's how I kind of look at climbing that ladder. What is that kind of how you look at it?
Yes. So when someone comes to me for a stress management coaching, usually they already been to a doctor, and the
Hmm.
doctor said you need to start taking care of yourself.
Hmm.
When I started my career as a coach, I would go a lot to networking events, and this is how they say you need to bring. And I started like 12 years ago now. And
Hmm.
I will meet a lot of people in those events. So the moment I will tell them that I'm a stress management coach, I will always hear, "Oh my gosh, everybody needs you." And then I will say, "Well, wonderful. Would you like to schedule an appointment with me?" And this is where the backpedaling starts. And, "Oh, I'm so busy. I don't think I can do this. This is
Yeah.
great, but yeah, I'll let you know." So, and those who actually came through, it's because they already have a problem, because
Yeah.
they already in pain. And I think the real change can happen two ways. Or you have
Mhm.
to be so in pain, or you have to be so inspired. So you see your
Yeah.
change when you were retired and you're like, you know what? No, I don't want to sit at home. It happened not from pain. You were not in pain. You were inspired to do something. You wanted to
Yeah.
shine your
No.
light. You wanted, I want to share this with the world. I want to change the world. Of course, there
Right.
was some pain because you were maybe thinking that, well, now what I'm going to do. But
Yeah.
someone who comes to me and they say, like, the body, like in my case, the body said, okay, I cannot do this anymore. Mine came from pain. So
Yes.
when somebody comes to me already for the stress management coaching, that means they already been through the stage where most of the time there was already pain. And
Yeah.
I was asking myself, like, why is this happening? That everybody knows that stress is bad for us, but not many wants to tackle this. And I finally realized the reason was when you meet someone, and maybe you haven't seen them for a few months or even years, or even co-workers after the weekend. We always say, okay, so how are you? What's new? You barely hear somebody saying, you know what, this morning I woke up and I had this beautiful
Mhm.
cup of coffee. I was looking in the birds chirping. Nobody says that. In
No.
our society is the hustle, the bustle, and kill yourself trying. It's
Yeah.
always, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. I'm running this company and my parents came
Mhm.
for visit and my three
Right.
children now starting in college. I have some.
Mhm.
So I realize what comes to stress management and anything that has to do with our mental state, we
Mhm.
are wearing the badge of honor of who is more stressed. And I realized where it's
Yeah.
really coming from. That was the reason. And when I listened to a few videos when I was just introduced to, I just actually found it on YouTube. I don't even know how, but Dr. Gabor Mate, that he was talking a lot about childhood experience and how they define who we are as human, as adults. So basically, he said those who are the overachievers, always hustling and bustling, that's what our society tell us to do. Uh,
Mhm.
those children who grow up in the environment that were not loved and appreciated for who they were without doing nothing, just as a beautiful
Right.
child, um,
Right.
they if they feel like they have to produce, they have to be useful, or they
Mhm.
will be excluded from the group. And
Right. Yeah.
when you think about it, we human, we are tribe people. We need to be in the group. We cannot be alone. And I mean, look at the pandemic. There were so many changes in the humanity because we were so isolated. And
Mhm.
even now we have the most people on the planet, but even in cities, people live with the people in the house and they feel isolated and lonely because
Mhm.
we are being excluded from the group. And we
Mhm.
become people pleasers from day one because we know if I'm not going to please the adults, me as a child not going to survive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we carry this mentality into our adult life, and then it becomes the society norm of you have to continuously produce, you constantly need to run after that horizon, and then
Yeah.
on top of it, oh, how dare you to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's
Yep.
like a car. When we have a car, we understand that we need to put gas in and we need to
Mhm.
change oil and we need to
Mm.
maintain in order
Right.
to perform well. But when it comes to the human body, mind, and soul, we just
Mm.
gonna push it to the point of exhaustion without taking care of it. And I think it's time to start taking care of it.
Yeah. And here's what I found, because I see those women who are like that, and most of them are in pain. And then what I can do is if I show them their cortisol curves, I show them their imbalances, now they understand. And then they become inspired. See, I think it's talking about, okay, I see the problem. I see that there is a solution because I call it hormone confusion. The problem is those patients, they go to the doctor, they get a blood test, and they're told that they're normal, that their blood tests are normal. That's the problem. I tell people you don't have 10 or 15 problems that you're talking about. You have two problems. You're trying to find the answer in the blood and you're not going to see it there. That's the wrong test. You have to look in the saliva. And then the other thing is most women in society and the media are focused on estrogen and testosterone now. People are getting these two pellets and it's causing problems. And I see it every day. And the real issue is progesterone and cortisol, stress and the lack of ovulation causing you not to have enough progesterone. But the only way you see that is through saliva. And I've just seen that once I show a person this is what you're doing to yourself, then they become inspired. So you have the pain, I understand where the pain is coming from. Now I'm inspired to change it. So that's where I think we could push some of those people to you, or those people who have that I can teach you because once my patients see the saliva test, they understand it. I could teach you how you could add that into your practice. So those are some things that, I was excited about, is that there are some things that I could, and that's what I try to do, is to try and help someone else's business to be better at doing what that may help them be better at helping their clients. So it's break time. We've done this for 30 minutes. We have a little break, and then we have another 15, 20 minutes. And Rebel, do we have any questions? And I want you to talk about your books, okay? I want you to talk about your best-selling book. And so that will be on our second half. Do we have any questions, Rebel? Do you have any questions? That's our producer.
You guys have been answering things as we go. Right when a question comes, y'all actually give the answer. Everything is running smoothly, and everybody is loving the content. All
right, good. I was, that's why I was hoping you were going to show up. So I'm so glad you did. So hey, let's go to break, and then we'll talk more after that, okay?
We are going to a quick break, so stay with us as we explore the ageless blueprint right here on W4HC Radio and Talk4 TV. An ancient secret with a modern twist for better health and vitality. Dr. Taylor will be right back. Taking care of your health shouldn't mean taking a handful of pills every day. At Taylor MD Formulations, they create doctor-developed supplements that combine the best natural ingredients so you get the results you need with fewer pills. Taylor MD Formulations is backed by science, designed for real life with real results. Less pills, better health, doctor approved. Shop now at TaylorMDFormulations.com and discover smarter supplements for smarter health. That's TaylorMDFormulations.com. We are back for more of Ageless Blueprint. Once again, let's join Dr. Taylor for more insights and research on the ancient secret to better health and a better life in modern times. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
All right, we're back with Ms. Guarin, and she has just really enlightened us on what she does and how stress affects women, high-performing women, and all the things that she's gone through. And we've tried to come up with some synergy that, so that everyone can benefit as much as they can from help from her and from me. I'm learning things all the time. One thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about your books, but I've been studying something called evolutionary stress, how we are living in an environment that we were not designed for and that evolution has not caught up with. And so that people don't understand that just daily life is a constant stressor, because your body is like, what is going on here? Why are you staying inside so much? Why aren't you outside with nature? Why aren't you letting the sunshine tell me when I should wake up? And why don't you let the birds singing help calm my mind? So it's all of this evolutionary stress that people don't realize. And that, like you're saying, push, push, push. That's not what we were designed to do. So let's just talk about that for a minute, and then we're going to go to your books or whatever else you want to talk about. All right.
Definitely agree with you that in today's world, it's more stress than it used to. Mm-hmm. The first thing that I recommend my clients is to stop watching the news.
Yes. Yes. I tell everybody, I never watch the news. I was like, hey, if it's something important, somebody will tell me, but otherwise I don't want to hear it. Yeah. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
And the problem with that is that we constantly bombarded with the negative news. It's like very, very fear-based. And when let's say we compare 100 years ago, when we had no TV and no phone, no internet, we did not know really what's happening on another side of the world. It was just our little village. That's mean our mental preparedness was able to handle whatever will come at us. But now when we look at the rest of the world, it looks like, oh my gosh, we're living in the worst time. But when you look at the history, I don't think there was a day in our lives that there was no war at some point. There were always somewhere droughts. There were always somewhere floods. There's this always thing that's going on. And I saw this research that this is not the time where the most people kill each other or die. That was like during the Hunan times on the, many thousand years ago, when they were really coming and killing the whole village. But now we have on the news, somebody got their car stolen, somebody got shot in the nightclub, something, and we immediately jump into extreme of, oh my gosh, my life is in danger, my children are in danger. And the sad part is that the media is really getting all our fear more up, because it is easier to, when you have people who are in fear, it's like becomes a herd. We are the tribe people. We are like the herd. So if you start shaking, one person, then everybody picks up. We become in this very stressed environment that is now influencing our health. And that's the one part, is that we're being bombarded from all of this thing that we're not equipped to process it. But also we come from the environment that we already touched on, that how dare you to take care of yourself. So if this moment, what I just said, that you turn off the news and there's always in history somebody's dying, you cannot have everyone. I bet a lot of people got triggered by that, because immediately said, oh, how dare you, you have no heart, and what do you mean I need to take care of myself? Because we've been taught that you have to sacrifice. Especially women, through generations, thousands of years, we've been taught that we are the mothers, the caregivers, they're all of that we need to do. But also we forgot the part that we need to take care of ourselves, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we cannot take care of anyone else. It's like, again, expecting the car to keep running without any gas in it. It makes no sense for the car, but somehow we forget that we humans also need to take care of ourselves. And the same for men too. We all need to start taking care of ourselves. And on top of that, there's so much of competition. Again, it comes from the place of scarcity, of we don't have enough. But when you look at in today's environment, we have too much.
Yes. Yeah.
How many shoes can you buy that were on sale? And I came from Lithuania, and I was born in Soviet Union, and I was a teenager where independence happened. So it was beautiful to be in that part of the history and see with my own eyes. But I remember there were plenty of winters when I will have only one pair of shoes. And guess what? I survived. And when I participate in a lot of podcasts, probably now over 200, and sometimes we'll get this question. They will say, so, okay, well, you came from, used to be Soviet Union, from Lithuania, and now you came to America. So you're so happy now. And how do you compare stress in different countries? And you cannot compare stress to different countries, because it's not about the country. It is about the environment that somebody is in, meaning the support that they get. You can look at the family, even in the same our country here, you can look at someone who doesn't have much, but they have a loving family, they help each other, they're in a loving relationship where the feminine and the masculine and the balance, and they can have not that much, but they're in a happier and healthier state than those who, let's say, are millionaires and have corporations running, and looks from outside that they're very successful and they should be happy. Because our quality of life being measured by how much money you have, not how good your relationships are, not how much you love and appreciate yourself. And what really sad is that, when I have clients, that's the number one thing they tell me. And by the way, I'm going to give you now an advice that I give to my clients the moment I see them. So for those who are listening in, use your phone for something good this time. And you set an alarm to go off on, let's say, every hour. That's the best. And then whatever it's on, it gives you a signal that you need to stop doing whatever you're doing. Of course, if it's safe, don't do this while you're driving and, while operating heavy machinery, all that. When you're safe, you stop whatever you're doing and you taking 1 minute for yourself. You close your eyes, drink some water. If you stand all day, maybe this is the time for you to sit down If you're sitting all the time, how about you going to stand up? How about you do absolutely nothing for 1 minute?
Yeah.
Now, who's listening in, you need to pay attention how that made you feel. Did you feel, what is she talking about? This is ridiculous. Or 1 minute's not going to change my life.
Yeah.
Or I wish 1 minute will change my life. This is all the excuses that we tell ourselves. This is bullying ourselves into to be something that we're not. This is bullying ourselves into, how dare you to put the gas in my car?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is what we need to start paying attention to, because the moment when we don't give self-care, we are dishonoring our own needs.
Yeah.
And so when somebody comes in and I give them, I say, okay, how about we will start with something small? Give yourself breaks, even 2-3 breaks during the day. And I look at them and I see the reaction where they're struggling with. And majority of them, they say, are you kidding me? I don't have time for this. Because I have to take care of my 3 kids, my aging parents, my 5 businesses, and there's no way. And I tell them, okay, so who is going to take care of those kids, the parents, and the businesses when you will be in the hospital?
Exactly. Yep.
So when we start, and this is nothing, I'm saying nothing new here. It's like you cannot pour out of empty pitch. So you need to fill yourself in order, to give everybody else. But also, I think we forget, especially the parents who still have children in their house, is that, the question is, okay, if you don't know how to handle stress, and this is what I ask my clients, I say, okay, how do you handle stress? How do you manage it? They're like, I don't know, have a glass of wine by the end of the day. That's my stress management, right? And then I say, okay, how were your parents handling stress? Was stress prominent in your childhood? Was your mother was telling you how to emotionally regulate? Was she had a routine, how she can, lower her stress? Was she teaching you something? I've never heard of, oh my gosh, my mother was great with stress, and we grew up in the adult. No, because of the same pushing that you need to continue going and going. And then I said, okay, so you learned how to manage your stress from the environment that you grew up, how they were managing stress. And then if you have kids, you are showing your kids by example how they will manage their stress.
And I don't know if I'm sure you do. They say the first 6, well, this is not they say, this is scientifically proven, that the first 6 to 7 years of a child's life, they're in a theta state, they're hypnotized. So you're being programmed before you ever remember it. You just remember what you remember past age 6 or 7, but you were really programmed before that. Okay. You saw things and you couldn't filter it and say, this is good or bad. You just mimicked it. And that's the subconscious mind that you're trying to break through, is that hypnotizing that happened and you don't remember being hypnotized. Okay. That's what you had to break through. And that's what I'm understanding. You had to break through and you knew that that's where the problem was. It wasn't your present situation of coming to America. It was really that initial situation of how you grew up. And you just remember the alcoholic part. You don't remember the 6, 7 years before your memory kicked in. So that's something that's very important. And whenever I always ask people, when was the last time you felt normal? And sometimes they'll say it was before the divorce or whatever. But if they ever say, I've always been like this, I ask them, okay, tell me about your childhood. Because I know that's because you don't remember ever being normal, because you came out of that hypnotized state, programmed to be abnormal, programmed to be stressed. And so you have this underlying stress that you don't know where it comes from, but it came from there. So is that how you look at it? But that's how I understand it.
Yes, absolutely. And when I was growing up, what I learned is that I always have to be hyper vigilant. I don't know what's going to happen every day. I remember I was afraid going from after school, going home, because I did not know when my dad will come back and what state he would be.
Yes.
And the child needs to develop a safe environment. in order to function well as an adult. And I did not have that safe environment. And for those who are listening in, they say, oh yeah, you know what, I had a happy childhood, I don't really care, I can stop listening to this podcast right now. But we all have childhood traumas. The moment we're being born and brought into this life, we already it starts with a huge trauma, because when you look at all ways, and mental and mind and body and soul, we belong to some another body, some comfortable and fed and warm and safe, and then suddenly we are seeing the light and the human speaking, and I'm cold, and then they spanking me, and now I'm crying. Please tell me if there's a person on this planet that grew up without childhood trauma.
So I'm an OB. I mean, I'm originally trained as an OB. So I witnessed that firsthand. It is a traumatic experience for a patient. I mean, there's screaming and hollering. There's all kinds of things coming at you when I'm sitting down there waiting for that baby. So you're right. It is traumatic. I didn't really think of it like that. Yeah, that going down the birth canal. Think how your head is being squeezed. And then sometimes they put forceps on you and squeeze your head some more. You're exactly right. You come in with a big trauma.
And then there's a lot of mental and all the emotions that the mother feels through the whole pregnancy. That's also what the child feels. That's why we need to have regulated adults, because the child doesn't know how to regulate emotions. The moment that something happens, the child always looking at the parents like, is my mom calm? If she's calm, I'll be calm. But if they're not calm, I'm not calm. And when I remember when I discovered that my childhood was really very traumatic, and I thought I became very angry at my parents. And I became angry at my dad that he was drinking. And I thought, well, first of all, it was so disappointing, because I thought, okay, I'm so damaged that there's no way out for me. And then I was angry that how dare they not to take care of an only child they had. But then I think a lot of forgiveness and empathy came through, because I realized that my parents grew, in very similar environments. And that's really going from generation to generation. And when you look at now who's listening in, think about your family history. And let's just think about, United States of America will be 250 years old. That's a very young country. And, everyone has a lineage that's, came from somewhere else, came from immigrant. And this information in your blood, in your cells, that life is hard and life is struggling. We already very stressed based. We already come with this setting that everything is, we cannot be comfortable. And then with the herd, with the tribe. And so when we see somebody else suffering, we want to help them as well. And then we like a school of fish that we are so dependent on each other. So even if somebody says, you know what, that doesn't really touch me, well, it does, because when you go to work or you go, you see a cashier at the grocery store, and then she snaps at you, there's a lot of stress going on. And we need to remember that we have to have empathy towards each other, but also we need to have the self-care towards ourselves, and we need to honor our needs when we feel tired. And this is time for you to sit down. It's a time to just do our little things that honor our own needs, because when we grew up in the environment that we felt abandoned, the worst thing that you can do is to abandon yourself. And somebody right now can say, I was never abandoned by my parents, I lived in a happy family. Let's just look us out, and you deal with babies. So the moment we are born, we separated from the mother, and we put in another room with all other babies. That's a serious trauma right there. Fear of abandonment, number one. Then look, in this country, how many months is the mother gets to visit with her baby? 3 months later, you see that woman already hustling and bustling back at work, because she needs to provide for that child.
Lolita, I would love to keep talking to you, but I know my producer's going to cut us off in a little bit.
Sorry.
And so no, but Rebel, what can we do? do we have any questions real quickly? But hey, look, thank you so much. This is so, you are just really putting a different face on what I do. And like I said, I look at it more objectively, but I know all of this is important and I encourage all of this. But sometimes you have to get that baseline working. So, Rebel, I know it's time to end, right?
Yes. We're getting a lot of people asking, how far back can you actually remember? How can you access the memories in the past? And a lot of people saying that you need to have Miss Lolita back because they can't get enough.
I got you. Okay. Hey, so you got another invitation, because I could have continued to listen to you, and I really think, like I said, this is two sides of the same coin, and that's what I want people to see, that there's a physiologic component, and then there's also like I say, a body component, and there's a mind component, and you have to get those two, I think, in order to get to the spiritual component. So that's what we're moving our way up to. And we started talking about energies and all that stuff, and that's a ladder you have to climb. So one last little 20 seconds, and we're going to have her contact information, all that stuff, in the description. So you got 20 seconds.
We don't need to discover how, I remember the question, we need to think about where we're coming from. No, you don't need to go start digging anything in the past. Pay attention where your stressors coming now. Pay attention what triggers you now. Get help from our Dr. Taylor here, and start regulating yourself and seeking help and allowing yourself to be the best you, and give yourself so you can give to other people.
I'm going to say this one thing. Let's talk about the present moment, because they say if you're anxious, you're thinking about the future. If you're depressed, you're thinking about the past. So think about this one moment, and your anxiety and depression goes away. All right, so we're going to end with that. Thank you again. Stay on, and we'll talk a little bit afterwards, okay? All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for joining Dr. Taylor today. If you missed any part of this show, just check out the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Ageless Blueprint is every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. Together, we discovered ancient secrets to better health through science and spirituality made for modern times. Until then, feel free to check out agelessblueprintpodcast.com and TaylorMDFormulations.com for more information.